MBA at Seton Hill University. Spent one season at Point Park University in Pennsylvania. And then I was a head coach at Mercyhurst Northeast, which actually just got shut down the other day.
Oh, wow.
The whole school did athletics, everything. And which is really disappointing is some of this is happening more and more. Then from there, I was the head coach at Penn State Greater Allegheny. It's Division III in Pittsburgh. I was there for 7 years, from every role as part-time coach to admissions counselor. I became the athletic director. From there, I got the job at Lock Haven University, which is a D2 in Pennsylvania, in the PSAC. From there, then I got the job at Barton College. It's a D2 in Wilson, North Carolina. And then now I'm here at Gardner-Webb.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cool
I've
journey.
touched every
Nice
level.
little resume. Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That's it.
I've been to the depths of college baseball. Trust me, I can give you some good stories.
That's awesome, man. I need
That's
to get into college baseball. It's a good way to go.
Yeah. Shaun, you're running some summer travel ball teams and some stuff down in South Florida.
Yeah, I work with the like my first, right when I got done playing, I was like, man, what am I going to do? So I just went around to the local, I'm in South Florida, so, there's baseball everywhere. So I just go to a local park. Next thing I know, I run into the first park I go to, I just see kids out there practicing. And I run into Keith Mitchell, who was my manager in low A, just out there running like travel ball. And
that's awesome.
Keith Mitchell and Brian Mitchell, they played in major leagues. He was my A-ball manager. And he's like, yo, you need to get out here because, they got some really good talent. There was guys like Nazir Mule, Alan Hernandez, Cheeky, which is Juan De La Cruz. He just signed with Virginia. And I was like, and they were younger. I was like, yeah, I'll try to get in there. And finally, I got in there. And that was my first stint into travel ball and trying to figure out, where I'm going to go. Passing out cards, training players, telling them, look, I just got done playing professional baseball. And now I use that to get into my social media to where now I have really good players coming to me, and also guys that I know have some potential, but they really need that guidance to where they need to kind of. I mean, they're trying hard, but they're just going at it the wrong way. It's showing them the ropes because they have to. You don't have to be amazing all the time, but in front of the right people, if you have the right basics, you know what I mean. You have the fundamentals, and you can show that in front of a college coach. You look like almost like a professional player. I always say, like, look, you want to look like a pro out there. And, some guys are going to get all the hype, but if you're pro and you're doing it at the right time, you'll get it. So I work with everybody from the studs to guys that really need to basically,
that's awesome.
Get out of that bubble.
Oh, I recruit Miami. I mean, I've had really good players. There's not enough roster spots for the amount of talent that's there. So I'm down twice a year. I work pretty close with do you know Lazaro Giannis? Yeah, so I work pretty close with Laz. He's always got really good players, and I just, like I said, I've got every year. I mean, there's just not enough opportunity for a lot of those kids.
It's good to be in touch with you. I mean, I got guys that once they become, they're good, but if they get the right teaching, and now all of a sudden they got that 16, 17-year-old strength compared to when they were a little bit smaller. I got guys that are above and beyond some of these other players that are ranked, but they're unknown for colleges, smaller colleges, maybe guys that there's so many colleges that need players. Many colleges that need players. I have some really good players, so it's good. We'll link up maybe.
Okay, can we, like, when we get done here, maybe I can exchange our cell, or Joel, if you could send my cell to him, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
keep in mind right now that it's looking for some colleges that are better than some of these ranked players, but nobody knows them.
Yeah,
no doubt. Well,
that's why we're here.
Better the players, better the coach.
Right.
Yeah, I've learned that over the years.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. That's why we're here. We're trying to connect high school players and college coaches. That's what we're all about. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Prospect Dugout Weekly Mastermind. I'm your host, Joel Hartman. You can follow me on Instagram at Hardy02. I just want to say thank you for joining us. If you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Tonight we're joined by Shaun Garceau and Jim Chester, along with my co-host Craig Maddox. Craig's also a hitting coach in the Giants organization, and I'll let Shaun and Jim introduce themselves in a minute. I just want to run through some things before we get started. If you're watching on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, can you please press that share button just so your friends and family can see, what's going on, what you're watching, and that might have an impact on them. Also Tuesday nights, make sure you join us for our hit series, Kicking It With Your Boy Swish. Nick Swisher answers questions from live callers every Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get on the show, visit prospectdugout.tv/kickit to submit your question for Nick Swisher. And then do not forget to download the Prospect Dugout app, where college coaches are looking for players just like you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to have Jim Chester and Shaun Garceau introduce themselves. Take about, just a minute just to kind of, let everybody know who you are and what you do. So Jim, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to sharing a lot with everybody here. Again, my name's Jim Chester. I'm the head baseball coach at Gardner-Webb University. Gardner-Webb's in Boiling Springs, North Carolina, just on the North Carolina-South Carolina border, about an hour from Charlotte. And, a little bit about me. Next season will be my 15th season as a head coach. Before that, I've been at every level. I started out as a junior college head coach, working my way through D3. I was a Division II head coach for 5 years at 2 different institutions, at Lock Haven University in central Pennsylvania, and then also at Barton College in Wilson, North Carolina, the eastern part of the state. Then was blessed to be able to have this opportunity to be at the Division I level here at Gardner-Webb. So, I'm looking forward to sharing whatever I can this evening. Like I said, I've been able to recruit at every level, and I'm not sure how much changes, but I definitely think there's some insight I can share.
Absolutely, thank you. Appreciate that, Jim. Shaun, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Like I said, my name's Shaun. Well, I got drafted out of high school to the Cardinals in 2005. I grew up doing all these things that a lot of players are going through now, the perfect games, ranked younger, trying to figure out which college I'm going to, and played 11 years professionally all over the world, from Asia to the Cardinals up to AAA, Mexico. And yeah, now I'm guiding the next generation of dudes, just trying to get them to colleges, using my experiences, my ups and downs. And, I got a good perspective with that. And that's it. Just trying to, give some insight to those players trying to make it, to get to the Gardner-Webbs and to get to the universities they want to go to. That's it. Just trying to give them some insight that I didn't have when I was coming up.
For sure. That's awesome. I appreciate that, Shaun. Craig, I'm going to let you jump in because I really didn't intro you other than you're a Giants minor league hitting coach. But why don't you give us about 30, 40 seconds of who you are, and then maybe another 20 seconds of Prospect Dugout.
For sure. So I went to college, Southeastern University, NAI in Central Florida. That's where Joel and I met. We're teammates. Went undrafted out of college, signed as a free agent, and spent 13 years between affiliated ball and independent baseball. Also played against Shaun as teammates and as on other teams. So had some good battles with Shaun. So
yes, we did.
That's always fun. But retired last year from playing after 13 seasons, like I said, and got the fortunate opportunity to be hired on with the San Francisco Giants organization as a hitting coach, and spent 2 weeks of spring training, and then we got shut down. So just stuck my toe in the water. And so I think we're going to be getting back to baseball pretty soon. Nothing confirmed from anything or any side, but I think we'll get back to baseball sooner than later. I think everybody's ready for that.
Heck yeah.
And we're just excited here while we're doing this to have you guys on at Prospect Dugout. That this is what we're about. We're about education. We're about helping players. We're about helping them understand the game, maybe from sides that they're not going to see normally. So, getting to talk to Shaun, who runs a organization who helps players, and then being able to talk to Jim, who's recruited and coached at every level, be able to see and talk to these guys and get a background perspective instead of what a lot of these guys see is just on the front end. So a unique experience, and hopefully along the way we can help guys get to college, and like we did before, just connecting people, and hopefully we see some of Shaun's guys at Gardner-Webb.
Amen. Amen.
I've seen you talk a little smack on your Instagram post too. Okay, we're all See those posts. Someone comes at you someone at somebody else the wrong way. You're gonna tell them the business. I like that.
Oh man. So yeah. So like Craig said, we met at college, and we were both undrafted. We were both kind of unrecruited as well. And so that's why we're doing this is we're trying to help the high school athlete get to college. That's why we created the brand. And so I'm going to start off, tonight with this first question. And I'm going to start with Jim. In terms of players that are playing to get recruited. So high school guys that are playing this summer, playing to get recruited. What should they be, from your perspective, what should they be looking for in a travel ball organization for summer ball? Like, what are the things that those organizations, what things should they be focusing on, that a player needs to get better at for you, from your standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of twofold. I mean, before like even the, in regards to the organization, before like what I think they should look at, like, number one, is there player development involved? Is that a focal point in making me a better player? Because the word exposure is thrown out a lot, and it's great. And I've personally, at every level I've been, hosted a lot of these exposure tournaments where there's not much being exposed, to be honest. And how much player development is being there. Now, again, I'm not saying there needs to be 10,000 reps by the coach and different things like that. I mean, at some point we're going to talk about, some characteristics we look for in a player, and self-motivation is definitely one of them. But how am I getting developed?
Mm-hmm.
How much in-game coaching is there? How much time does the coach take with me at different times during the summer, and explains situations and explains the little things about the game that sometimes, I'm being honest, it's like starting from scratch sometimes in the fall. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And I don't know whose fault it is. I'm not placing any blame anywhere, but I think that's something that a player really, really, really needs to look into is that. And then also, what kind of relationships does the travel organization have with certain coaches, in certain levels and different things, depending on where you want to go. And I'm hoping too, a little later, we can talk about the different levels and how, and it's great to hear there's 2 NAI guys that had a great experience and some different things like that. I mean, I can sit there and, like I said, I spent 11 years as a player and a coach at the Division III level, and had an outstanding experience. And, it's not all D1 or bust.
Right.
On a lot of ends. Their success can happen a lot of different ways. But I really believe when there's some, player development, end of things is a focal point. And then also what relationships does the organization have with what schools and what areas and different things like that. I don't think it's all about who travels the farthest, who plays in the most tournaments, because at the end of the day, like, how much better of a player are you becoming, and how are you playing? Who are you playing in front of?
Right.
Who can get who to come to certain games? I mean, that's kind of the piece of it.
Yeah,
it's impossible. I mean, we have 3 coaches that can recruit. That's it. 3 guys that are allowed to go on the road. And how do we see everything everywhere? I mean, it's unbelievable when there's no virus running around. I mean, there's a game everywhere every day of the week.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Shaun, so from your perspective, you're in the thick of it right now. You're in that element. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you kind of run your organization with your teams and your players to kind of, touch on what Jim was saying and kind of promote them and connect them with the right coaches.
I agree with Jim. All these guys are out here, they're trying to expose. And they think, oh, I just have to go to all these tournaments and show up these skills. But if I'm going to go talk to a college coach and everyone's going to say the same thing, man, this guy can hit, man, this guy can do his exit velocity, this and that. But there has to be something that separates you. And the things I do teach, it's those insights to the game, the things that the coaches need once they get in there. How smart are they for certain situations? What is the smart play? Maybe it's nothing at all. You know what I mean? Not just always going out there just trying to like throw my hardest and hit these bombs. But sometimes there's a certain situation that comes up that you got to give them the insight, like how to handle, the certain counts, my approach, my little things like that. So I give them these insights to where, look, yeah, it looks good to hit a bomb, but man, does it look good to handle that situation the right way? And if I tell the coach that, like, look at this kid right here. Yeah, he's going to get up there with the man on third base and know all I got to do is hit a ball to the right side. That's a run ahead. We're up by 1. Now that's an extra bonus run. because he's looking just to let that ball get deep and hit it that way, and that's it, and that's a win. Because the rest of the situations, then all the, you know what I mean, then you can let your skills show. But when you can play smart all the time, and sometimes a smart play is just super impressive, and not trying to just swing for the, you know what I mean? Because that's what they do. That's what they do at showcases. Try to throw hard, try to swing for the fence, when all you have to do is do a smart play for the situation every time, and you look like a pro. If you look like a pro, you play like a pro, it means you have an approach. That's what I teach all my kids. And man, my kids last summer, this is my first year where they could be recruited to colleges. And I go in there, I'm like, guys, these dudes over here, yeah, we're all trying to win. Winning is impressive. Playing for the team is impressive. You want to win, the calmer person right here is going to prevail. You go out there, you're a little tight. You're real tight because the pressure's on, because you're trying to be the winner. There's a role for every situation. And that's most of these college coaches see that, and there's something special about it. And that's all I'm trying to tell these kids, because 2-0 count, you're winning by 3. That's when you're going to hit those bombs and you're going to show off. But sometimes there's a situation that doesn't call for that. Yeah. And it's more impressive than hitting that bomb sometimes, you know? Yeah. But no doubt. But you know what I mean? And that's what I teach all my kids. When I go, whether it's we're in BP, I'm like, yo, this is 2-0. Guys on third base right here. You know you're going to get a cookie. That is going to be the second run, last inning. Go up by 1, go up by 2. What do you got to do? They hit it deep every, you know what I mean? They let it get deep, and that's it. Balls that way, extra run scored. And that's a team player. And normally your stats will show, you know, that's the things that I teach. Little things like that. And then obviously we get into power and rotational power and how to use your body. But that's it. That's what we do in my organization. We try to look good for the scouts. And it's not just about hitting home runs to look good. I want to know that this guy has a professional mindset. That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. So Jim, you kind of mentioned talking about like having to start over in the fall. And so I want to jump to Craig on this. Craig's coaching, you know, at the minor league level, and you played at the professional level. So you're getting a perspective of guys going from college to professional baseball. And so I want you to kind of touch on the things that they're kind of lacking when they get to the professional level as a hitter. But then Jim, I kind of want you to touch on what you talked about starting over in the fall. I want you to kind of touch on, like, you know, what you see in common of your players that come in, you wish that they knew more about.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So to touch a little bit, go back just to touch, like what guys need to understand, which sometimes is not said, that like velocity and exit velo sometimes is like the worst thing that can be for a player, because it gives them an ability to compare themselves to other people when there's so many outside parameters. And we even have that for our guys in the Giants organization. There's our top guy who has an exit velo of whatever, 110. Okay. There's probably another guy in the country who's the same age, who has the same exit velo. That doesn't mean that he's going to be our first round draft pick. There's so much else that goes into it. Just like Shaun was touching on, you're not pulling the cover over any of these coaches' eyes. You know, Jim's done it for 15 years. He's seen the good, bad, and the ugly. Like, he's going to be able to see and tell within watching you for one inning, one at bat, and one time in the field, whether you know what you're doing or not, whether you have baseball savvy, baseball feel. And so don't compare yourselves, young athletes, out there to, well, I have just as good an exit velo as this guy, or, oh, I just throw as hard as this guy. Why am I not getting recruited to Division I and he is? Well, there's a lot of other factors that go into it. Maybe he knows how to pitch in certain counts. Maybe he knows how to take advantage of action counts when he's in the box. Maybe he gets his knocks when it's, 3-2 instead of coming out of his shoes. And the other thing that people won't say, scouts won't tell you, and coaches won't tell you, is this little inside. Like, the coach has to like you as a person. That's why they get to know you. That's why they get to know. They ask your teachers. Our scouts go and sit with these guys because we're about to bring them into our family. That coach is about to spend the next 4 years of his life with you. Like, he's got to like you. And that's a big, 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 big factor that has nothing to do with baseball. And
Mm-hmm.
so with us, with the Giants, that's huge. Like I know one of our core philosophies is like, we're going to draft good humans. Like we might not go after a guy because he has, you know, red flags, so that we keep the organization sound. And even more so, I would say on the college side, probably, and Jim can touch on this, like you're even more a family. In a minor league organization, you know, things are moved all over the place. Guys are released. It's just the nature of the business.
Mm-hmm.
But if Jim's recruiting you, he's saying, hey man, you're going to be a part of our family, hopefully for at least 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'll let Jim touch on that.
I think that's huge. I'm glad you mentioned that. Like in regards to, you know, I've taken over a few programs. So, I mean, again, and this is no knock on anybody, any person, any player, anything, but, you know, I've had to coach a lot of kids over the last X amount of years that I didn't have on a visit. I didn't meet their families. I didn't go out and see, you know, just, you know, didn't develop that relationship. And there's a lot where it's tough is, like you said, like it's all, I'm being serious. If we can't have a conversation, okay, so all we're doing is texting and whatever, I'm not saying that's not a piece of it. And I get it. Like that's all part of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can't, like I spend more time around our players in most seasons, not this one, but like then I do my own family, my 2 children, my wife. Like I spend more time around them. So I got to kind of enjoy it, you know, so in a lot of ways. So, you know, I just, it's really difficult when there can't be like a conversation in a dialogue in a healthy, you know, on that. And so like, I really relate to what you're saying, because I've had some, you know, not a lot, but enough to where it's like, you know, you're like, I don't know if I'd have recruited this kid just because you know, come on, son, let's go talk to me. Like, what do we got going on here? Let's, you know what I mean? Let's go. And you know, you listen and you hear everybody say, oh, that's the way kids are today. I mean, maybe that's a piece. I don't know, but relationships are relationships. And when you build them, like, you know, you get the best of somebody. So, I mean, I don't buy completely into that. Yeah. But to touch on like what I was talking about, like what happened, we start over. Like it's little things like every year that I've taken over a new program, one of the first things that I do is I take a fungo and a baseball and I stick, you know, the nine guys out there, and I just bang a baseball into the gap and I say, nobody on. I just want to see where everybody goes. And I'm being serious. Even when you get some of these kids that are ranked here, ranked that, done this, done that, the shortstop just runs to the baseball, no matter where. You know what I'm saying? The second baseman's not real sure, and then he'll kind of run to second. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like there's no, the pitcher is just kind of standing on the mound. I mean, I'm being so I can tell really quick like who's been coached up and who hasn't, really quick, just by doing that one thing. And again, I know it's a minor part of baseball, but to me, it's a big piece to it, you know, in regards to situational defense, where the guys go and deflection points and a lot of different things that we try to take a lot of time on. And that's where it's, in my opinion, it's gotten a little worse every year. And I mean, we watch a lot of games. I'm still a guy. Even though I've been a head coach for a little while, I still recruit. I go out. I enjoy that piece of it. And I really like to see like what happens when that ball's hitting the gap and where guys go, and, you know, how much is talked about body language, and, you know, how much is, you know, who's picking who up and who's doing different things. And, you know, offensively, it's amazing. You were talking about, you know, guy 2-0 getting one. I've seen more guys at some of these tournaments turn around 77 miles an hour, you know, for a double, be on second, and then miss a dirt ball. Like, to me, it's like, it's such a turnoff. You know, I mean, like you know, I'm the worst player in this group, but I probably still could barrel up 77. So, you know what I mean? It's just where it's like some of those things, like, you know, we get guys and like we try to spend a lot of time on like, you know, like dirt ball reads and running first to third and doing some of that, and where it takes a fall. It takes a fall. And it's some of that gets frustrating from a coaching standpoint. And you know, where does it start? Where does it end? How do you, all that type of stuff. I just kind of already been mentally prepared for a lot of it coming in. But I will tell you, when I see a kid go first to third, like at a high level, like I get excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in a game, like I'm like, okay, I like this kid, or he takes an extra base, or do you know what I mean? Or an outfielder fields the baseball and keeps the double play in order. He's not trying to, get an arm velo from the outfield, or, you know what I mean? Trying to hose somebody, like, you know what I mean? Like some of that stuff excites me as a coach when I watch it. So, those are some of the things that are like, it's just encouraging when you see a young guy do it, especially whether they're with us during that time or when we're recruiting them.
Yeah, for sure. So we're here on the weekly Prospect Dugout Mastermind. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Make sure to drop a comment if you got a question. Joined by Jim Chester, Gardner-Webb head coach, and Shaun Garceau of Shaun Garceau Baseball down in South Florida, summer travel ball coach. So we got some good topics, good content. And Jim, that's one thing that for me, as spending 10 years at the high school level coaching and that same amount of time coaching at the youth travel ball level, I'm the same way. Like if I see a team of kids that can drop bombs, like let's say even at the, at the younger level, like 12 years old, they're still in the small field. They go out there and it's a kid throwing really hard on the mound. And then you got big kids all over the place. They're hitting home runs, or they're throwing kids out from the outfield at first base, but they don't know how to back up. They don't know how to turn a double play. They don't know what a double cut is. And then they get to the big field and all those home runs that they hit are fly balls. So now they don't know how to play. So that's something for me as a coach I would harp on, if you can't field a ground ball, you're not even going to be out there. I don't care really if you can hit, because I need a baseball player. I need someone that can compete.
No doubt.
Yeah. So I like programs that focus on the fundamentals, but also give players the freedom and the flexibility to fail, but to try new things. Like I'm not opposed to a kid swinging 3-0. If I think that he's a confident kid that has an approach, if he feels like he can swing 3-0, go ahead and swing 3-0. But a kid that, is typically swinging at a 1-0 curveball in the dirt or a 2-0 curveball in the dirt, I'm probably not going to give him a green light until he, gets an understanding of, what's going on. So I think it all plays a factor at the higher level. I think you can get away with it at the younger level, but once you get to a good team in high school or, even at the college level, all the kids that were okay players really dropped out. And now you have just a group of players that can play. And so now in order to stand out, you really have to be fundamentally sound. So, Shaun, I kind of want to, switch to you and get your thoughts on, how you have seen the most success for your players in the summer when you're taking them to these tournaments, like when you're going to these events, like how do they, perform best? Are you playing small ball? Like, are you bunting and doing things like that? Or how are you handling that?
No, I'm not going to lie. When you go to these showcases, small ball's tough because of the situation they're in, but I do try to play the smartest baseball, period. I harp big time on everything you guys are saying. So guys, if you're out there listening and you don't understand what any of this means by being a smart player, the approach, if all this is kind of new to you, and this is not something that, yeah, of course you heard, it's not that new, but this is not something that you just really understand. You're one of those players that need to really focus on it. Maybe start to listen to Prospect Dugout more. Come on my page. We'll listen to the things I'm saying more, because there is a professional approach and then there's an approach where those guys are only worrying about their exit velocity and those things. There's two different things. So if it's clicking with you, keep going at it. Stay with that smart approach because they're smart players and those are rare. All right. So trust me, you think you're maybe that rare player, you're probably not, because that's how rare it is. What I teach is I kind of calm them down and make them think about the situation, not overthink the hitting. I'm not that coach that's going to be telling them what to do while they're hitting. I'm going to let them go up there and fail, talk to them about the situation and what would have been the smart approach, because you can't be thinking about a million things at once. But I just have them going up there, understanding the approach, and I tell them, this is what the scouts want to see. Let's see if you can do it. And then just to kind of be like, every time I say it, usually situations are common. You know what I mean? It's either a let it rip situation or it's a smart situation. And I just make sure they understand the difference. There's a difference between I'm swinging for a line drive and I'm swinging for a home run. And I don't say don't go up there and swing for a home run, because telling a kid that is hard for them to understand. But I do. They understand with me the mechanics, the difference of it. So I'm not going to get into that. but there's a time and a place for so many things. And with me, they understand situations. They understand their mindset that they're supposed to be in. And that's the difference. So when college sees them, for some reason, their stats are killer. It is not because it's just because they're so good. It's because their head's in the right place. So if your head is not changing from every situation, like if I'm an outfielder and we're up by 4 runs, right? There's a certain way I'm going to approach this ball. All I got to do really is just, all I got to do is keep this ball in front of me, basically, because a single right there in that situation is not a rally. You know what I mean? The play's over. That's one pitch. Boom. Next one. But all of a sudden, you're this 4-run lead, and you go for this crazy play, and now there's a triple. There's momentum going.
Yeah.
There's a certain way to set up for every situation that's going to make you successful, and that's when the big plays happen, when you're in the right place. So it's too big to really talk about here, but there is a certain situation and a certain mindset for every single play, and it's not overthinking. It's just having one thought and attacking it. That's it. You'll set yourself up, and the coaches will see it. They'll be like, man, that was a smart play. And yeah, it's because maybe sometimes good coaching, but eventually it's because the kid is the one is willing to accept it, and you got to be there.
But somebody's got to tell them that.
Yeah, they have to.
It's got to happen, you know. And even if it happens against the other team, and you kind of see the situation, that's what I'm looking for is a kid that's in an organization where they're kind of, you know, even if it happened against you, and you're like, you point that out to the team and say, look, hey, you remember the play in the 6th when this happened? The kid dove for that baseball, and it got under him, and it became a triple, and changed the whole complex of the game and different things like that's huge, coach. It's huge because
there's so many things we could talk about, all of them, you know, but basically it's, if you don't feel like you're in that situation where someone is teaching you all these little things that you don't know, it's hard because you don't know, but you got to find that guy. You got to look at that information. You can go on my page anytime, and I'm just trying to teach these little tweaks. And there's other guys that are way better than me at it. I'm trying to get better. Like I was going to ask you guys how you guys started, because you guys are go-getters when it comes to the social media game and giving that information. And I'm, getting there myself, but every second I can, I'm trying to give like little inside tips. And players that work with me, they get them all the time.
Yeah.
If you're not getting that from your coach, guys, there's someone else out there you can get it from, and you have to get it. Whatever this means, you have to find it, because if you're not getting that extra next level of information, you're just going through the reps. Oh, hitting this ball deep. That's all you are used to learning. Well, then trust me, there's more. The game is baseball is tough.
Yeah. Constantly learning, for sure.
Constantly learning,
for sure. So I got a question for Jim to maybe dive a little bit deep on this topic of players and being fundamentally sound, having, baseball savvy, what you guys were hitting on. So since you've recruited and coached at, like you said before, at many different levels, and so at the Division III NAI, I know that, the coaching budgets are smaller, you have less resources, and as you go up, you have more resources. So how valuable, when you're going to watch a tournament, is a guy that you can tell has baseball sense and baseball knowledge in the recruiting process at one of those smaller type schools where you don't have the time and the luxury to spend all fall going over, reads down the right field line? Like you would much rather have the guy that knew that, so that we can focus on baseball and really getting into it, where you don't have the coaching staff and the resources. Like, does that guy play higher for you recruiting, or are you still looking for the tools guy that you're going to develop?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to this. I mean, I think that, my first job that I had at JUCO, I had a $250 recruiting budget. And then my next job at the D3 I was at, we had nothing. Didn't have a recruiting budget. When I was at Lock Haven, it was $900. And then at Barton, we had a little bit more. And then blessed now to have a little bit more than that to do.
You can at least drive outside the state, right?
Yeah. I mean, so what successful small college baseball coaches do, honestly. They spend their own money. So, I mean, I'm being dead serious, and they figure out a way to develop relationships with the right people and being able to, they know the players that they want. I've spent many of my own dime to go see guys and do whatever. I'm not the only one. When I say that, this isn't look at me. I mean, there's people that, they just have really creative about what they do and how it works and how you make it work. So that's an interesting question. Do you take the savvy player with less talent, or do you go more with the tools and then try to teach the savviness, if that's a word, and what we need to do? So that you can debate this for a long time, and I've done both. And because at the end of the day, there is a skill set end of this to be able to go. I mean, I've seen, and I hate to say this, I've seen plenty of guys that hustle, that play hard, that throw the ball to the right place and do what they need to do. And they're great teammates and they're great, but they're 5'6", 140 pounds. And that just, their battle go backwards at our level. So, that in that end, then we know we like.
Well, I'm saying more adequate skill set where you look at a guy and say, you know what, like he might not be all conference, but this dude could hang at XYZ.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like this guy could hang at Gardner-Webb, where you look at another guy that you're like, this guy doesn't have a ton of baseball like feel, but his tools, like he could be a stud here.
No, that guy doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. It never does. There's so many guys that take great 5 o'clock BP and just to do some special things on measurable ends that show up on a perfect game page, but they can't play.
There's a reason.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You need, like, I'm going with the ball player 110% of the time. The tools, in my opinion, they don't play when you get into the game. I mean, it's selected times they do, and they will show, but I'm talking over a 56 game schedule. The ball player is going to show up. There's going to be guys that disagree with me on that, though, 100%. But I've seen a million kids go Power 5 off of tools and then end up in the portal, and they end up at a different level. I've seen it a million times, and the game has to slow down a little bit for their tools to work.
Right. Well, it's the same way on the minor league side. Yeah. Everything's, Shaun's seen it just like I've seen it. And it's, this guy's projectable. And then all of a sudden the dude who shows up and he can play and straps it on every single day, slowly inches. And then all of a sudden that guy's still hanging out in high A. Why? The ball players in AAA knocking on the door.
Me 100% of the time, I'm taking a ball player. And I've got to get the right description from the coach initially. And when I got to see it a little bit, but it's just a lot of times, listen, where I'm at now is no different than any other job that I had. Like, I'm sitting in a state here, right? Where if I'm going to sit here in Pound, North Carolina, okay, you follow me here. Like, I got UNC, we got Duke, we've got NC State, we've got East Carolina. I can go down the list. So, I can't just go like, oh, I'd like him and I'd like him and I'd like him. I mean, I wish that was the case, but everywhere I've been, it's been that case. We've had to recruit a little untraditional, whether it's the area, the player, the body type, the whatever it might be, to kind of, get that edge to do what you need to do. So it's a great question. And me personally, I'm going for the ball player every time. Yeah.
Because half the time, we're talking about the common situation you're talking about is these dudes that have been baseball, they're not new to the sport and they're just figuring it out, and they're good kids. Because like those kids that have that skill set, but they also have that willingness to learn, those guys are easy to coach, and you want that kid, but those kids that have been playing forever, and for some reason the baseball side of it is just not there. It's because of something is missing mentally. Like just something's lacking, and maybe it's attitude, maybe it's stubbornness, maybe it's ego. When those are the things we're talking about. So if you're a kid out there, what they're talking about is, if you're tough to coach, you got the skills, guys. Erase that now, because those kids that are working hard and their skill sets just barely below you, but they're baseball smart because they're dedicated to that side. Be that guy. Be scared that you're going to lose your job, even though your skill set's not there. Be scared you're not going to make it, because you need to chase after it like you don't have a chance, because the second you lose that grind, you know what I mean? That you're losing your potential. You got to act like you're scared. You got to act like you're scared to lose your job. Not because you know you're good, but if you act like you're scared, you're training like you're scared because you want to be the best, and you train like you. Trust me, there's nothing more powerful than someone that maybe just got cut and didn't make a team.
Yeah,
And he's willing to prove something. But if you act like that, even though you made the team, what is going to happen? You know, you got to unlock that in you, and that's tough to do when you're so skilled.
Well, you guys can speak about it more than I can. I mean, all three of you were pros. Like you've seen that whole thing go on at the professional level. I mean, you've seen the guys that, you know, some guys that move up that maybe they were, you know what I mean, they weren't a top 10 round pick, or they weren't, you know what I mean. There's a certain, you know, I call it the invisible. You know what I mean, the things that you can't see. That's you know, we try to really focus on is, you know, like some of the things, you know, that you can't exit, you know, you can measure exit velo, you can measure, you know, how hard you throw a baseball, how fast you run, all that type of stuff. But, you know, I'm telling you, some of the fastest, and I'm jumping around, but some of the fastest kids I've ever coached, I mean, that just ran in a straight line were the worst base runners. You know, I mean, some of the best guys. I mean, I talk about first to third a lot because it's really important in our program. I mean, I've had 7-2 guys that were just animals at it, you know what I mean? Because they could play. You know what I mean? So on that end. So, but yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, you can. I mean, definitely, you see all kinds of. I see all kinds of guys. Played with a few guys at the professional level that weren't the fastest dudes. They were just smarter than everybody else on the bases, and ended up with 25 to 30 stolen bases just on just pure smarts. And half the time, guys didn't even make an attempt to throw them out because they're walking into second base because they're just smarter. They pick up things. They pick up on the catcher. They pick up on the pitcher. They got his timing and things like that. That stuff is the separator. That's what takes your average 10th to 30th round draft pick and puts them in the big leagues. Like your first to 10 rounds, you're pretty much carved out. Like you just can't totally flop, and you're going to get opportunity. Not saying that you're going to go straight to the big leagues, but you're going to get that opportunity.
Right.
But you have to have that edge the lower down you get. And, you know, as a Division II, Division III NAI, like you really got to carry that chip on your shoulder because so many kids are Division I or bust. And they, you know,
I think there's a lot of pressure put on to younger athletes. I've been in the high school game, I've been in the youth travel ball game, and one of the things that irks me the most is the kids that don't know how to play the game. Like I understand the sex appeal when it comes to hitting home runs and throwing hard and, you know, shutting the other team out at 10 years old, 11 years old, or, you know, scoring 25 runs on a 14U team or whatever. But like, I really, it's not attractive to me because none of that plays at the next level. If you're playing competitively, to me, in my opinion, you're playing competitively because you're trying to win. And if you're trying to win at the game of baseball, there's different levels that you can get to as you progress throughout your life and through your career. And so to me, you know, Jim, what you were saying, you know, a guy that just has tools doesn't play for you, it doesn't work out for you. And I think the reason why, you know, at some of those Power 5 schools, you see those guys that they take a chance on is because they do have the ability to have some of those other tools that they can piece in on their program. But for a smaller level school, you really don't have the flexibility to do that. So you really do have to focus on, you know, the player that understands. And I think that's where the majority of baseball players are. Like someone like Mike Trout, someone like, you know, Ken Griffey Jr., someone like A-Rod, those guys are gifted, but they're also very fundamental. They know how to play the game of baseball. They don't just go up there and swing for the fences and then, you know, not do anything. They actually can play the game and they can do it well. So I think that there's a correlation between, you know, how you approach the game at the younger level, how you're taught. It's a chess game. Like it's a strategy game. You're not playing, you know, to see how many runs you can score this inning. Like you're playing to win a game over 6 innings, 7 innings, 9 innings. And so I think at the lower levels, it's really difficult to see how that plays out. But as you progress, I think that's where it has the impact. I want to jump into our last question here before we wrap it up. We're live with Jim Chester, Gardner-Webb head coach, and Shaun Garceau. He's with Shaun Garceau Baseball down in South Florida, dealing with a lot of amateur travel ball players. And so, I'm going to read a couple of the comments real quick on Facebook. Love smart baseball over big numbers conversation. Huge for the game, huge for parents in your organization to understand. Can't wait until baseball starts back up again. Stay safe.
Yes.
Just a lot of positivity here. But as we get into this, this summer season coming up and things start to resume, I want to ask you guys, and Shaun, I'm going to go with you first because you have an interesting story. You have a really cool story. And I don't want you to dive too deep into it, maybe 3 or 4 minutes on what your story is, but relate that back to kids that are dealing with COVID-19 right now, shut down. A lot of kids, maybe they don't have access to things. Maybe kids, were on teams and now, they have to fight to battle back, or, I don't know. There's a lot of things going on with kids being shut down. So why don't you kind of tell, 3 to 4 minutes of your story and then share, some encouragement or your perspective on how kids can bounce back from this to get back into the game.
For me, it depends on, like, okay, you're looking at COVID. Some people are coming from just different situations. Some people were balling out, ready to get back, some kids didn't make a team. Some kids didn't have the best fall before that. And they're sitting there like, do I train hard and come back stronger? You know what I mean? Or do I just kind of like, I'm not doing so good and that's it for me. I had a tough situation where I had everything in the palm of my hands. Young kid, throwing 94, 95, and I was 14 years old, getting drafted, and then boom, bumped in the road, kind of fell down. But when I got back up, I got up, cleared my mind, realized what I'm trying to be, and kind of like started over to the person I really wanted to be. So take these little lessons. We're talking about Mike Trout, right? This is something I always say. Mm-hmm. The people that make it straight to the big leagues, yeah, they're talented, but man, let me tell you something. They have their head on straight from day one. They don't hit these bumps in the road because their head is, maybe someone taught them, maybe they were raised, you know what I mean? Super, like they had the right leaders in their life. We're telling you now that you got to be that smart player, because the guy that skill set, he doesn't get straight to the bigs or stay in the bigs forever, or in college or whatever, the star player. They have their head on straight, and that means the total game. That means their life outside of baseball. So for me, I wish one thing I would have learned was my life outside of baseball, that I was going for it, like to be the best person, to be the hardest worker, or at least have my mind towards like, what's going to make me a harder worker? Is it eating better, sleeping better? Those little things. Look at everything you do during the day. Don't just let it slide. Be cool with my friends. I got to look cool, and then go look cool playing baseball because I know I'm good. Take it by the horns. Be a good person. Treat people well. This is what I learned. Like, I didn't realize I was always a good person, like good guy. But man, do I learn that like everyone, have a positive outlook. Treat everyone with that positive outlook, because this negativity, getting down on yourself, you're not going to remember this. You know what I mean? You're not going to remember these negative moments. They're going to be gone next year. So don't worry and dwell on the negative. Keep on pushing, and you can be a new person every day, the person you want to be. All right, wake up, go after it. Because trust me, when you hit that rock bottom, whatever that means, whether it's in your playing career, whether your school grades, there is a way to get past that. And it's just that next day, start a plan. It's kind of broad because I'm not going to get too into it, but I'm telling you guys, you can be whatever you want. And that's so cliche, but it's legit. And it just means by whether it's be positive, whatever it is, trust me, the coaches can see it. Everyone can see it. And if you only do it once, you're not that person. But if you can do it every day for a month, a season, you are that person. Whether it's, I'm the person that comes to the practice earliest and stays long. If you do that for one whole season, you are officially that man. But if you do it twice and give up, you're not that guy, So trust me, it's hard, but do it for 3 months and you officially have become that kind of person. Whatever it is you're talking about, a healthy eater, a good sleeper, that's all it takes is for you to do it. And I just say, go for it. Don't let these things let you down, and
for sure,
and become stronger from it. That's it.
Yeah, you definitely
awesome message, Coach. Awesome message.
You definitely have an interesting story, and we're definitely gonna have to get you on the podcast so you can share it in full. Jim, why don't you touch on it from your perspective in terms of your guys that are home now that aren't playing? Like, what are you telling them to do to stay in shape? So maybe a high school kid can kind of relate that to their current situation.
Sure. First off, NCAA is not allowing us to mandate any type of anything with them. We've been doing the Zoom meetings, and what's been really cool about some of that, just to, we caught up with everybody individually, all our incoming and our returners last week, and listening to a lot of. We have some guys that have, some opportunity for some strength training. Our strength coach has put together some really good body weight stuff, and we got guys doing pull-ups on trees and push-ups to exhaustion and all kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Just some, really, really neat stuff. So I know that we've got some guys really working, but what's been great too on the connection on that is we've had, we've on our team stuff. We've had Sean Casey came in and spoke for a while. If you guys remember him playing the big leagues for a while with the Reds and stuff. Case is a stud. He's a Pittsburgh guy. And Danny Altavilla's in the Seattle Mariners bullpen right now. Danny came in, and he's another guy. I grew up in the same areas he did, and he came in and spoke to these guys a little bit about like what the process is. So it kind of leads in what I want our guys to know. And Coach, that was an amazing message about like the process, right? Like understanding like what the process is and what the path is and all that. And it's interesting. I'm reading a book right now called Chop Wood, Carry Water. If any of you have not, if you've heard of it and you haven't read it, I'm a few chapters in, and it talks a lot about a process and, wanting to do something, but how do you get to it? And, everyone's got a different path, and, I don't care what your path is, there's bumps on it. And when you hit that bump, like, what are you going to do? And we categorize that a lot as the fall, this isn't easy. You know what I mean? This isn't easy. It isn't easy to get up at 5 a.m. and lift weights, and then turn around and go to class and then meet with our academic advisor, then have individuals, then go to practice, then do your work, then go to bed, and then do it again. Not easy. But if you want to be good at something, I mean, you've got to work at it. That has not changed. Baseball's changed, right? There's a lot of data. There's a lot of numbers. The whole recruiting, all that's changed. But the one thing that hasn't changed, if you work harder than the next guy, you're probably going to be ahead of him. That hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. It never will. And that's about being blue collar. And that's something that's big in our program. And having an understanding what the process is. And when nobody's got a video on you, when the Twitter's down, the Instagram's down, the TikTok's down, all that's not into play. Like who wants to fight? Who wants to survive? Who wants to grind? Who loves the process? And who wants to get after it day in and day out? That guy stands tall. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's the important part, is to understand the process. And then like when it gets a little difficult, mm-hmm. Who can get through it? That to me is, that needs to be encouraged a little more than some of the other things that go on, in my opinion. 100%.
I believe that. And I want to touch on something that Shaun, you mentioned earlier. You said that you kind of had a question for Craig and I about, social media. And so I just want to touch on that. And then after that, I want to kick it back to you guys just to kind of leave us with your final thoughts. So Shaun and Jim, I'll give you, about a minute, 2 minutes each, just to kind of leave the audience. There's parents watching, there's players watching. I got, someone that just commented, said, thank you. My son is listening to all of you. We appreciate all your advice. So I just want to touch on the social media aspect. We're here on the weekly Mastermind with Prospect Dugout. We like to bring in, college guys, pro guys, former pro guys that have, insight and perspective at a higher level, because the reason why Prospect Dugout is here is to help high school kids, amateur players get to the next level, whatever that next level may be. So if you're going, you're in little league and your dream is to play high school baseball, we want to provide you with the opportunity to, get information and knowledge on, to get into that level. If you want to play Major League Baseball, we want to bring in guys that, that can help give that insight. And so, on the social media standpoint, what we've learned is that the more content that you can put out there and the more content that you can create, the better. The consistency is key. Especially during a time like this, you're not out at showcases, you're not playing games, but maybe you can set up a tee, maybe you can set up, a net in the backyard, maybe you can go to a local park, maybe you can go to a facility and record your swings and post those. So that way, a coach like Jim or a coach from another organization can actually see that you're putting in the work, because there's a lot of limitations and things like that. But if you can actually put out there that you're working, right now there's nothing going on. So like Jim was just talking about with, showing that you have a work ethic, and what Shaun was saying, like you really want to put in that work, that's going to show that to that coach. Craig touched on that earlier, that a coach has to like you. It boils down to, Jim touched on, if you have all the tools, but you can't play, that's not really going to work in my program. And, the same thing with Craig, a coach has to like you. A coach has to, enjoy being around you, because it's a game. It's not just, who are the best players I can get. We have to play as a team. Nick Swisher, who, hosts Tuesday nights Kicking It with Your Boy Swish, he likes to say that baseball, it's a team sport, but it's also played at an individual level. You have to, be good. You have to do the best that you can and work together with your team. And so I think social media is a way that can either expose you for good or expose you for bad. If you're clowning around doing bad things, college coaches are looking. They're not, they may not be, not to knock on you, Jim, but you may not be hip to the social media, but you still know how to use it, and you're still on there, and still, you're doing your due diligence on these players. It's not just, I like this kid, I saw him one time, he hit a home run, I'm going to sign him. Boom. No, you're tracking him. You're following him. Players can lose scholarships. Players can lose interest from coaches because they're not doing well. But then on the other hand, you may not know of a player, Jim, and you may be scrolling through Instagram and you see this kid with this nice swing and you never heard of him before. And you go into his profile and you see a few swings, and all of a sudden, let me look up his name on Perfect Game. Let me see, what he's got going on. And now you've just found a player. So my advice, Shaun, what you were asking about social media, is be consistent. Pump out what you're good at, pump out what you're doing. Don't try to be someone that you're not, because in reality, you're trying to create a career and a path for yourself for who you are. So if you're not being true to yourself, it's going to be tough to get there. So, Jim, Shaun, let's wrap up just by, having some final thoughts. Shaun, why don't you go give us, 2 to 3 minutes, just some final thoughts to leave the audience with.
Just off rip, I'm just thinking, just like you guys, I'm here to help the players, you know what I mean? And I mean that sincerely. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to keep putting out content, but I'm also, if you're just someone new that doesn't know who I am, but you have a question, you can contact probably any four of us on it, you know what I mean, on Instagram, on social media. And especially at a time like this, and to the kids that are out there and they're listening, put out content, put out my swings. There's no better way to get some info than just hitting up some of the people that you look up to, because if one of them writes back to you, you're going to really take that to heart. And that's going to motivate you even further to keep doing the same. And that's in your life too, to go get it, to be a go-getter. And like he's saying, if you're sitting around doing nothing and you're working hard, and you're just doing it for social media to look good, that might be your mindset at first, but now you're doing it and you really are working on something. You're going to learn things about yourself. So I agree with that too. If you need some really good help, some info on things that I know the college scouts want to see. I know what looks good and you're working on something, and I can be like, you shouldn't even be thinking about that right now. This is what you should be thinking about. Come to me, guys. I'm trying to reach as many players as I can. I do great locally. I reach a lot of players, but I want to reach more. Baseball is my passion. Like, it's crazy how much I love baseball, but I love also I'm really good at communicating and understanding what you're going through. And everyone's so different. But if you just talk to someone, maybe they understand where your mindset is, but you got to talk, you got to reach out, you got to find that information for yourself. And that's what someone like me is here for. That's what someone like Jim, Craig, Joel, everyone's here for. So, but Craig and Joel, they're big time right now. So they're a little busy. So you reach out to them. I'm just kidding. But seriously, we're all here for all that. I love baseball. I keep learning myself every day. So if you're not trying to learn, you're doing yourself a disservice. Guys, keep your head straight, keep working hard. That's it. That's all I can really tell you.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. I appreciate that, Shaun. Thanks so much. Jim, just a word of advice, a message to leave with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. First one, like, the social media is powerful. It's awesome. I couldn't tell you, even through this quarantine, I've picked up some really good things for our program. And for some reason in this country, people think that a 5th grade teacher is smarter than a 3rd grade teacher. That's not true. So, I mean, I've gotten a ton of stuff for some really good high school coaches on Twitter and a book market. And man, I have some great infield. I mean, I can tell you some awesome stuff. We obviously don't have enough time for that, but just understand that, I mean, there's really good coaches and really, really good educators at every level. And I really appreciate what people put out there. I mean, helps me become a better coach on that end. This is what I want to leave the players with that are out there. And I'm going to speak from my heart when I tell everybody this, and parents listen to this too. So at the end of the day, everyone's chasing this golden goose, is playing Division I baseball, being a professional, all those type of things. I get it. I did it too. It wasn't in the cards for me, but I think what needs to understand to do this as a player is work as hard as you can. Work on your body the best that you can. Get in the best shape that you possibly can be and become the best player that you can be. And don't worry about anything else. Outwork everybody around you. Do that to the highest level and let the chips fall. And wherever they fall, that's where they fall. And you can have the best experience playing college baseball at every single level, whether it's junior college, Division III, Division II, or maybe it ends up being Division I. But have no regrets. And just work your tail off like at a level that you never thought you could work at. And you think you've reached a level, try to reach another one. And it'll work out. It's going to work out, whatever that might be. And you're going to get a college degree. You're going to have a great experience. You're going to make friends for life. And if you end up being a pro, that's great. If not, trust me, you're going to learn something probably even more valuable out of that process than you would have if you just kind of showed up somewhere and went, through the motions. So that's kind of my advice to players that are out there. Don't worry about everything else that's around you. Don't worry about all the distractions and, where somebody else is committing and what's going on. Get yourself in the best shape you can be the best player you can be the best teammate that you can be. Let the chips fall, and I can trust you're going to have a great experience.
That's awesome, Jim. I appreciate that. Jim, Shaun, thank you guys so much for joining us. Audience, thank you guys for watching and viewing. If you're watching live on Facebook or YouTube, I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this on the podcast, I'd appreciate it if you leave a review. Let us know what you thought about it. As always, we're here trying to bring information, trying to drop knowledge, and just trying to connect, the baseball world together. And so join us every Sunday night, 8:00 Eastern, right here, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. We have new guests every week. Tuesday night, kicking it with your boy Swish. We've got an awesome lineup. We got a couple of D1 studs coming in, a couple of D1 high school commits. It's going to be a great episode live again, as always, here on Facebook and YouTube. For Craig Maddox, I'm Joel Hartman. Jim, Shaun, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.